Loading.
So we're not talking about the file. Well, I'll keep that tab open.
All right. Looks like we're good. Hello, everyone.
So the secret.
Hello.
So the secret, and somebody taught me this last week to get rid of this stupid ass YouTube update. I don't know what the hell this is.
Oh yeah, I still don't have that. I don't.
No, check this out. You don't have it?
No, I've never seen it on any of my devices.
Jeez. Well, I'm running Windows 11, so I'm sure that's just they're
Oh, this is
torturing.
Windows 11.
That is bizarre. Why am I
You're
slated
a guinea
for
pig.
termination here?
You're a
What?
guinea pig. Another
That's
week.
what you get for being an influencer, Gordon.
So the way to get rid of it is you click refresh, and then it's like, oh yeah, that shit sucks. We're gonna go back to the
Wait,
regular
what?
one. It goes back. See?
Why does it even start that way?
Yeah, yeah.
That's weird.
See, the good thing is nobody at YouTube is even paying attention to us because we can talk all kinds of crap we want. Like, what the hell are you doing over there, man?
That's weird.
But no, they don't.
Yeah. Welcome. Hello. Tuesday. We're here
Happy
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
10:30-ish a.m. Pacific.
Not too bad. Just
Not too bad.
Just 9 minute delay. It's okay.
Just the usual.
Just the usual.
Oh.
We got a full house here today.
Yay.
Yay!
Somebody saying
All the full
feedback loop.
nerds.
We're having feedback loop.
Echo.
Somebody- echo. There's an echo.
Well,
Echo. Echo. Echo.
No, all the audio
Echo.
is off. Weird.
Echo.
Is anybody? Are we still reporting? Audio is good.
Huh.
One
Except for
person says
Brad's
echo.
mic, but that's usual.
Oh, only one person is reporting the echo.
Two stream?
Oh,
No.
somebody's
Yeah.
saying no echo. You might have. They're talking to the people. You may have
Yeah.
2 streams open.
So Jazzo channel. Okay. So we're good. We're good.
We're good.
We are good. I'm wearing a 2023 playoff shirt, by the way.
Yay.
Congratulations on 3-1.
Hey, you know what? We've been here before. It can happen. It can happen.
We have.
Thunder?
Yeah.
KD Thunder with Westbrook dug ourselves out of the hole. It can happen, but you know that was a long time ago. Hey,
Huh? What?
I'm not gonna. You know what? No, you don't want to be. I'll bring it up later when we talk about the angry PC gamers. But you don't want to be that kind of fan.
The board fan?
Well, you don't want to just because the whole idea is to be a fan.
Well, I'm not a fan, so.
To be the disloyal fan that is just bipolar, that immediately goes from like top of the world to like the worst year in hell, kind of like it's ridiculous. Don't do that. Take it for what it is. It's really hard to repeat, so whatever.
Okay, basketball talk. We got it in. We did
No,
it.
it's just about no. I mean, because I have the shirt. I've never had a current year shirt. I got this. So my secret is because I have all these Warriors shirts, and you could think people think like, oh, well, Gordon must be rich. He's going to these playoff games, the final shirts. I ain't never been to one. I can't afford that.
You get last year's shirt from the Goodwill.
Yeah, I go to the Goodwill. I literally go to the Goodwill, and then you get them, and then the fans they are. This kind of tells you about the fan base. Is they take the shirts. It's like, oh, we didn't win, so they like recycle them. And then when the year they lost to the Raptors, there were like 15 of those shirts. Like there's like, oh, these are those kind of fans. So this one I got from my niece who works for the Warriors. So
Nice.
it's an actual
I don't wanna-
playoff shirt. So I did not get it from the
Family discount.
family discount. I actually did not get from the Goodwill store for $5. It's not even $5. I think they're like $3. So
I was looking to buy some Celtics playoff tickets. I don't want to get too far into this, but the nosebleed seats are like $290, so I'll be watching that from home.
yeah, no, I mean, why? I don't. Yeah. But anyway, so I just had to bring that up because it's cool to actually finally have an actual. And
Good
believe
job.
me, if we're out of it this week, then I don't wear them anymore. But that's you got to be happy for when you have it. So we have a fun show today. We're going to talk about 4060 Ti rumors and angry PC gamers. I have phlegm in my throat, so I'm going to try to cough.
Yeah, actually, we woke up this morning and Brad was like, "Oh, hey, do you want to talk about the rumors?" And I was like, "Wait, Brad wants to talk about rumors? All right, I'm not gonna pass this up." Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about rumors and Brad's here. So look at that, double dose,
Woo.
double dose.
It's I didn't catch up on the rumor, but it's pretty good, right?
Well, that's why he's here to tell us about it.
Right.
All right.
Captain Brad.
We're ready to kick us off.
Brad. Okay. All right. Yeah, Gordon. Go ahead. Kick us off.
Sorry. I hope it's hopefully just like
Allergies?
Oh, man,
Yeah,
my
but I don't know
allergies are
because I just
messed.
got over COVID, so I don't know if it's just like, oh no, actually your lungs they're only like 20% capacity. You don't
Staring
know.
at him right now.
My allergies.
They did not even
are-
like. They just wanted me out of here. It's like you've been in this bed, get out. Like just get. Like really? Like you're not gonna like? Am I okay to leave? But no, it's,
I mean, you didn't want to stay there longer than you needed to, though, right?
no. I was pacing. Like there's. It's really nice because when you're COVID positive and you're in a hospital bed, man, you're just like you get the bubonic plague because you are like they came in with the full like gowns and everything every time,
Well,
and everything would have to be like
Was it like
incinerated afterwards.
ET, where everybody in the bodysuits and the big like tunnels and stuff like that going from room to room?
Practically. People don't even know. Do you even know ET? Did you see ET when you were
Yeah.
young?
Sorry, are you talking to him?
I've seen it. I've seen ET.
Okay, I'm
He's the youngest one
surprised.
here.
Hey. Don't call
Yes,
me out
I've seen
that.
ET.
I'm just surprised.
And I knew ET before they made that edit too. You heard about how he changed the edit?
There's an edit.
What?
Yeah, he talked about taking the guns out.
Oh.
Didn't you hear about that?
I didn't even know there were any weapons in ET.
Yeah. Well, oh man,
There were flashlights,
I-
mag lights. That's all I know.
Guns replaced. Oh, they replaced them with walkie-talkies. That's what it was. There was a theatrical cut, and the officers chasing the kids with firearms. But then in the 20th anniversary edition, they replaced it with walkie-talkies. And Spielberg recently said that was a mistake.
Oh yes, I saw that in the place that I get my current news from, which is South Park. They actually had that whole.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they made an entire episode making fun of the walkie-talkies and just because that's actually a good place for current event information. Actually, is South Park, so that's where I get all my information. So that's
The no guns edit.
that explains it. Internet that explains it. You ready? We're gonna do
All right,
this now.
internet. Let's do this. Go ahead, Gordon.
In this episode of the Full Nerd, 4060 Ti rumors and angry PC gamers and more. Welcome to episode 256 of the Full Nerd. Yes, the binary version. I'm your host, Gordon Mong, with co-host Brett Charkis,
Hello, Internet.
Eleni Yee,
Hello.
and Patrick Murray.
Hi, I'm here
And-
at the table.
Here at the table because we have Willis Lai controlling the vertical and horizontal.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you.
Hello.
Good to see you all.
We're here Tuesday. This is a full crew.
It's a full
full
house.
nerd. It's a full-
it really
full
is
nerd.
the full nerd.
Yeah. This is the full
Full
nerd.
nerd.
The fullest of
Full
nerds
nerd.
here for this special edition episode of, well, it's not special. It's just 256, you know?
256. Yeah,
Yeah.
people are like, hey, that's a joke.
Yeah.
Right?
That is a joke.
I need to look up this 4060 news because I even know about it. Because somebody was asking me last night,
Oh, man,
what should I
get
buy?
right into the topics.
Right
okay,
in.
yeah.
All
Right
right.
The same
topic.
niece who gave me this cool Warrior shirt
Yeah.
for the 2023 playoffs
Okay.
may not be another one past the next game, but it might not.
Yeah.
Don't jinx
But
it. Don't jinx
She
it.
was wondering what card should I buy because I got this ancient old 1080.
Hey, it's still a good card. 1080 still. a
Yeah,
good
but
card.
she streams and the machine's
Oh,
getting a
yeah.
little slow and she wants something newer. So I kind of was like,
I mean, I thought they were
4070.
just done with the 4070. Wasn't the 4070? That was just gonna be it. That was it. Now there's more coming. Brad?
There's more, right?
That's the rumor and the expectation. So just this morning or last night, depending on what part of the world you live in, I guess, Video Cards put up a post. Video Cards does a really great job of covering graphics card rumors. If you're not familiar with them, most people listen to this probably are, but they usually only cover stuff that they can somewhat cite themselves or have some sort of verification for. So they tend to be a little bit more trustworthy than most rumors that you see out there. Put up a post saying that the 4060 Ti is indeed going to have 8 gigabytes of RAM, which has been expected for a while. But according to this post, NVIDIA also heard all the recent complaints about how 8 gigabytes ain't enough and is also planning a 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte variant. According to Video Cards, the 8 gig one is going to be announced and released this month, and the 16 gig one will be announced this month but released in July. Yes, sir.
Teacher,
Adam?
I have a question. Didn't they do this before?
What?
Of one GPU with 2 different RAM configurations, and the internet got mad.
Not
They
simultaneously,
did.
but it wasn't launched at the same time. Was it?
No,
but it
are you
sounds
talking
like
about
this
the
wasn't.
4080?
I'm talking about the
Are you talking-
4080.
Yeah, the 4080 was, who knows what the ending configurations of these will be. But the 4080 was a little bit different because not only was it different memory amounts, and that's what it was advertised as, that was like the old terrible 1060, where the GPU was actually different. So this could be the exact same GPU, just coming 2 months later with more memory for more money, would be my assumption. Because everyone's complaining about 8 GB not being enough for especially 1440p gaming these days, 1080p or 4K gaming. And the rumor also says that we could see a 4060 8 GB announcement also this May, likely a Computex to also be released in July.
So wait. I mean, because 4080 was, you had 16 gig, bigger die, and then you had the 4080 12 gig, smaller die, less memory, right? So it wasn't quite the same.
And the outroar over that was so fierce that they canceled it and then renamed it and released it as the 4070 Ti.
And then everybody was okay, right? Everybody was fine with that?
Well, the 4070 Ti, my review called it technically hobbled and wildly overpriced. So I don't know if everyone was okay with it.
Gordon was fine with it.
But the interesting part about this is that 4070 Ti has 12 gigabytes of RAM. 4070 does as well. So just like last generation, where the 3060 had 12 gigabytes of RAM and the upper cards never had, the 4060 series cards might very well come with more memory capacity than the 4070 Ti that goes for $800.
Oh, wait. So, yeah, I totally forgot about that. The 3060 came in 2 versions.
Yeah.
No,
so
it was
60,
just,
right?
It was just.
No, the 3060 was only 12 gig because AMD was really aggressive about packing more memory into Radeon 6000 cards. So NVIDIA shifted course when they could as they got further down the stack.
I guess I'm thinking 1060, 3 gig, 1060, 6 gig, right? Was it 6?
6 and 3 for the 1060.
Was it the same?
3 gigabyte one was a very cut down
Oh.
GPU that ran a lot slower. So that was misleading. Just like the 4080 would have been.
Like, I can't tell. I mean, is this a good thing? Because then it's like, oh, sweet, you have more options. Do you only game at 1080p and oh, okay, you could save some money and get the 8 gig? You want to step up? Here's a 16 gig version.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be spun as that.
But I mean, so it's good to have more options, but at the same time, I mean, I guess we don't know pricing. Was there any?
No. There's no indication of pricing. And then the original Twitter, I don't know if you mentioned it, I can't remember, but Megasized GPU is the person who's the rumor person here.
Yep.
Do you believe any of this? Do you actually believe any of this?
I 1,000% believe this one. That's the reason I don't mind covering it, because if NVIDIA only launches an 8 gigabyte 4060 Ti at the kind of prices that is likely to launch at, it's probably going to get pretty beat up. But with the way the memory subsystem works, if you look at the laptop versions of the GPU, you can kind of get a sense it has 128-bit bus, I believe. They could only have 8 or 16 gigabytes. So it's going to come down to pricing.
Is that
there's a decent chance that the 8 gigabyte model isn't super highly recommended, but the 16 gigabyte one, depending on the price, could be more recommended. But the important thing to keep in mind is if this does happen, and it does have 128-bit bus, like, this won't affect memory bandwidth at all. It's purely for if you need those higher resolution textures for gaming at 1440p or 1080p if you're playing. What was the game that had crazy? Last of Us. If you're playing Last of Us, you might need 16 gigs to play 1080p.
You need a Threadripper for that.
I guess I'm a little skeptical of it because it does seem like it doesn't make any sense to do 2 SKUs.
It does.
2 models.
To me, so? I thoroughly think so. I think these parts have obviously been planned out, taped out for a long time. I think AMD, because they're in the consoles, foresaw that higher memory capacities were going to be needed, and they started doing that last generation and kept it up this generation. They're, in fact, heavily advertising that right now. I think just like last generation with the 3060, NVIDIA's caught a little flat-footed by that, but much more so because the sentiment against 8 gigabyte cards is so high right now because we're seeing all these iffy PC ports with higher memory needs. So I think there's going to be a 3060 type situation where, yeah, it's weird that a lower end product has an option for higher memory capacity than cards that cost twice as much. But if they announce an 8 GB 4060 Ti for $400 to $500, you could really only recommend that for 1080p gaming these days, and that's a hard sell for $400 to $500.
I guess I'm just trying to understand this because it feels like, we know this was planned out a while ago. The anger has only been sort of building over the last 2 months. Would you say 3 months? 2 months? I mean, it really seems like it's just gotten more steam in the last.
Well-
I mean, I feel like the outpouring maybe has been more vocal in the last month or so.
Right.
But I think the simmering discontent / resentment has been there for a long while now.
Yeah, I went back and read my 3070 review recently, and I was already like, man, more than 8 GB would be nice on a $500 graphics card. And that was before the pandemic. So, I mean, the time has been coming for a while.
I guess I'm just wondering if they really would react. It feels like it's relatively that quickly to offer the 16 gig version. It seems like that would be really fast. And then also, NVIDIA generally doesn't respond to what the community says, I think.
I disagree. I think the exact opposite yet again. I think they're very responsive, as evidenced by the 3060 last generation, as evidenced by, a couple generations ago, Vega 56 came out and beat the 1070. So within a few months, we had a 1070 Ti, which is largely useless, but just edged ahead of Vega 56 on the benchmark charts. So I think NVIDIA is very responsive to these things and want to maintain a good image as much as possible.
I guess maybe it's just because I view everything. It's not proven to me that, again, I don't cover GPUs, but I guess I'm not 100% certain that having larger frame buffers is solving everything. Sometimes I still feel like I'm caught up in the old days where the size of frame buffers is often a marketing tool.
Mm-hmm.
When you have 16 gigs on a card that really has a very narrow bus, is it really going to make the difference that, it's like taking remember they had 8 gig 4080 cards, I think? Didn't they have like some 8 gig and it really didn't make any difference for 4080 with 8 gigs?
They had 10 gig and 12 gig for a 40.
No, so not 480.
No,
RX. 480.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So remember, because going classically back to 15 years ago, the add-in board vendors were like, "Hey, we got more RAM. Like, this is a low-end card. Why do you need this?" And when we look at a lot of laptops, like they're often stacked up with more memory. And I honestly think a lot of that is, I still feel, from a gaming perspective, is done cynically because people go more RAM is better. And honestly, I just don't. I still, in my mind, I'm not convinced that it's always better.
Well,
Right.
Back in the day, I think it was usually just an upsell to charge people
Right.
more. Bigger numbers better, but on the box. But these days, a lot of games are starting to run into the frame buffer limits. Like 3 years ago, Watch Dogs Legion, when it came out, it would go over 8 GB, even without ray tracing turned on at 1440p even, and it's only getting more pronounced as time goes on. So in this specific case, I think we're at the point where it truly matters.
Yeah, well, and I guess for me, I have a hard time understanding what's the sweet spot, right? Because NVIDIA comes out with a 4070 and it's got, or whatever, a card, and they're like, oh, 8 GB is not enough. I'm just generally, and then the audience is like, oh no, it should have been double. I'm like, okay, but if you double that again and put 32 gigs on a 4070, like that doesn't make that card any better in the long term. Like business decisions you have to put in, like, okay, well, we want to put enough RAM for it to actually work properly, but you don't want to put in too much RAM that it's just going to be wasted. Because of course the audience is going to be like, oh yeah, put 64 gigs of RAM on there, I'd love it. You just can't do that. So like where realistically is that sweet spot, especially for somebody on a 4060 Ti? Like, they're not going to, sure, it would be great to have 32 gigs on there, but realistically, you're running into bottlenecks somewhere else rather than the RAM. So,
Yeah, it's kind of hard because, the pricing segments are different than they were traditionally. Back in the day when we were talking about a 2060 Ti or a 1060 Ti, we were talking about a $350 graphics card. Whereas these days they're closer to $500 would be my guess. And if you're spending that much money or simply wanting to make sure that you're spending that much money and don't have to turn down texture settings and stuff like that on a 1440p or higher monitor, I think you need at least 12, ideally 16 gigabytes is what I would be looking for in a card I'm spending $500 on these days, just to make sure it keeps up with these console ports that come from, console development that has so much more RAM available.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the console ports in our second segment where we're talking about angry gamers, but it just feels like.
And listen, I mean, I'll take all the VRAM you can for the video production side of it. that's for damn sure. But I also realize that like NVIDIA's not then going to come out and be like, hey, actually, we have a 4060 Ti with 32 gig version. Mean, at some point, it doesn't make sense, and I think that's the hard part for me, at least, trying to understand is that. Like you have a company, NVIDIA is releasing these cards, and the audience is like, it's not enough, it should be higher. But I don't know where that higher limit is, it sucks to get a card for $500 and like have a game come out and you're like, well, crap, I'm running out of VRAM. But does that mean the company should have doubled the VRAM just for this handful of games that are sucking on it?
Yeah.
Right. It's a weird balancing act, and it's hard for me to understand because there's so much yelling on the internet about it. So
yeah, I think, like I said, AMD, possibly because they are so involved in consoles, saw this coming, and there's a reason they started loading up on memory last generation and kept it going this generation. I think I mentioned my crazy conspiracy theory when Brad Shoemaker was on here about how I think NVIDIA limits RAM in its GeForce cards because if you're using this for content creation or machine learning, they want you to buy pricier cards. So I'm not surprised to see them expand the memory offerings in these lower tier cards because a 4060 Ti, the GPU itself won't be doing those grunt tasks, even with the bigger capacity, as well as a higher tier card would. So there's less chance of that cannibalizing content creation machine learning sales, is my crazy conspiracy theory.
No, and I get it. And I also think, and to be fair, we don't really know if that's part of it, but I could also see part of the math could be, look, if we have a 4070 Ti or 4080 with crap load of memory on it, and then now everybody's buying these things to do cheap machine learning at home, we've basically replicated the crypto people. So now everybody's buying every single 16 gig 4070 Ti that they can, and you can't buy the cards anymore, and you create the exact same problem that you had with crypto. So you sort of again, AMD, remember they said they intentionally hobbled some of the cards to make them not appeal to crypto people. Of course nobody believed that, but it actually kind of made sense because if you had
NVIDIA actually did.
Yeah, NVIDIA did too, right? So, there are some reasons that if you do that, like, yeah, sure, it's going to kind of suck maybe in performance, but also you can buy the damn thing because now you don't have these budget machine learning people buying every single damn card and they don't care about the price because they're getting their money's worth for it. So I could see that also being part of the decision too because
that could
screwed everything up for years.
Yeah, that definitely could be, especially because crypto was so big when these things were obviously planned and designed and everything. So that being said, in today's marketplace, man, releasing this without a 16 gigabyte variant, I really think would be a kiss of death for it if the pricing is what I expect it to be.
So let me ask you this, because I remember I haven't gone to a desktop NVIDIA briefing in a long time. And I remember a long time ago, it was discussed because it's always, there's always a discussion like, well, what was the decision behind this much memory on the card? The answer was always, well, look, this has got a limited width bus, and this is the amount of memory, because they have their intelligence based on talking to developers, and there's also business decisions that go around. You don't want to jack up the prices of the card so much for the memory price. There were always these kind of decisions that went into this. Have they addressed that in the last couple desktop briefings? Because I kind of wonder, everybody must be asking that. Like, why are you doing this much memory? Why not? I'm just wondering if they've ever said like, yeah, part of it's business, part of it's like, you do not need a 128-bit card with 24 gigs of RAM on it or whatever, because it's just stupid, right? That's just a waste of money. But
in the briefings I've been in, it hasn't been asked recently because the higher tier cards up until this point have had enough memory. Like, yes, ideally the 4070 and 4070 Ti would have 16 gigabytes, but they don't. But 12 gigabytes is enough where you're like, all right, I can see that for a 4070. That's fine. That's a big bump over the 8 that it was. So it hasn't been something that was asked for recently.
Okay. But
this 8 gigabyte, they have to get ahead of this, because if they only launch this in 8 gigabyte models, it'll be the same for whenever AMD launches their mid-tier cards, the 7600 XT or whatever. If they only launch in 8 gigabyte models, they're going to have to price it extremely cheap to make enthusiasts want to touch that.
Yeah.
Especially this 4060 Ti, if it does have 128-bit bus, which again, the laptop SKU does, so there's good reason to believe that. Rumors are pointing towards that, but they could just be riffing off the laptop SKUs. That'll mean, even though NVIDIA baked in Infinity Cache-like memory cache, though it's L2 instead of L3 this time around, 128-bit bus means this card will really, really only excel at 1080p game. So, they got a bounce they need to walk there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, if it's just simply optimally for 90% of games, 8 gigs is fine, but they're sensitive to getting beat up by Intel and AMD because they're out marketing them on memory capacity of the cards, then they just cynically throw it on, even though they know it only gives you marginal improvements at all. That doesn't seem to benefit anybody.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If this is indeed just a doubling of memory, it won't give you performance benefits as far as overall bandwidth and stuff like that. But capacity truly does matter, and that's a I have enough or I don't situation. So in the games where it does matter and you do need that capacity, if you only have an 8 gigabyte card, then you're going to start hitting system RAM and get those stutters. So in a lot of cases, going from 8 gigabyte to 16 gigabyte on the exact same GPU won't matter, but when it does, it does.
It was interesting though when I helped Keith do that one video of the $280 cards. So it was the AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA, and they all had 8 gigs of VRAM, but some of them still handled the 8 gig VRAM limits better than others. I don't know, and I think that was a bus thing, but yeah, it was I don't remember exactly. We'd have to go back and watch
it could
Keith's
be a bus thing. They all have different memory compression technologies and stuff like that too. Like NVIDIA's is real good. AMD's been catching up, but NVIDIA's been best in class for a while. I don't know what to say about Intel's off the bat, but that kind of stuff can make a difference for that too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a weird thing that I've noticed too, is that like yes, there are a handful of games out there that are using a ton of VRAM. A lot of the situations I've seen that are VRAM limited is because of ray tracing. Mm-hmm. So people are yelling, "Oh crap! I need more VRAM to use ray tracing,"
which is what you're heavily advertising.
But then they're also, "I don't want ray tracing. I don't play ray tracing. Ray tracing sucks." It's like, okay, well then you don't need that extra VRAM. Like I feel like once again I'm hearing it from both ends.
I feel, Adam, like maybe if you think about this the way that Gordon talks about like K parts unlocked CPUs, I think that might solve some of your confusion, because people like the security of knowing they can do something with something, right? Or sorry, doing more with something, even if they never use it, right?
Okay.
It's the reason why people stockpile their homes with goods, because they are probably not going to use that much of whatever, but it makes them feel better to have it, right?
Okay. You have a point there. I like that. Yeah.
So I think obviously Brad's our guru here, but from my less educated standpoint on these cards, I would say that, like even system RAM, right? There is like a general trend where like where like the upper limit, the reasonable upper limit to be. So I think when a lot of times we listen to people on the internet say like it needs more, they're not saying that they want to stick 64, gigabytes onto a lower end card. They want to see that it has like they want to see the meaningful step ups, like the trickle down effect, right? So, like, if a high end card used to have 16, eventually they want to see that come to like the mid tier, right? And I think that's kind of the argument we're seeing now. Like, the people are starting to feel that 16 is more of an established number, right? So, why aren't we seeing numbers closer to that on these cards that have drifted up in price that are no longer $330? Like a 4070 is like no, even inflation adjusted, is nowhere near what it was several generations ago. So I think if that helps you, like that's kind of where you ballpark it.
Yeah.
I do wonder too if some of this is I don't know how to describe it. I'm trying to use a term that's going to be non-offensive, but lower informed.
Plug your ears, kid.
No, because as you get
mute him, Willis.
Generally, as you get into lower, so like you could argue 4080, 4090, $1,000 graphics card buyer and up. They're going to tend to be enthusiasts. Of course, that's not always the case because some people just got to have excessive money. But I wonder if you sort of assume higher end buyers are more informed. They're doing more, they're doing more research on it. As you get into more mainstream SKUs like 4060, 4050 kind of class, people are not going to be switched on to every single nuance of a graphics card. And it actually may be more useful to have the 16 gig number on the box at 4060 Ti, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that this goes back, 15 years ago. Whenever you would talk to the analysts would always say like, okay, what are the top selling PCs at big box stores? What are the things that sell? What are the reasons why consumers would buy it? So when an average consumer would go into a Best Buy or Costco or whatever your favorite, big box store is, they look at CPU. It's Core i7. Okay, Core i7 is 2 better than 5. It's got a 512 gig hard drive. So it's got a bigger hard drive. I need that. 1 terabyte hard drive. I need that. And then the third thing they would always look at, and it would always confuse the hell out of me. And I would disagree because like, oh, well, number 3 must be graphics card, right? Is it this version, this Radeon or this GeForce card? That's what consumers know. The number 3 thing all consumers used to look at in America 15 years ago was the amount of RAM the system had. Oh, it's got 8 gigs of RAM. It's got 60. What the hell do you need 16 gigs of RAM for with integrated graphics, right? I mean, what do you like? And it was always the weirdest thing because traditionally,
tabs.
Well, I mean, I don't know if things have changed, but like all of the analyst outfits, JPR, and like consumers always bought on those 3 things: RAM, hard drive, CPU. They Americans have never traditionally cared about GPUs. I don't know if that's changed or not, but I just kind of think again that kind of like less informed buyer, they see 16 gig for a graphics card and like, oh, it's a bigger number. And the interesting thing, and this is it's a little bit of trivia here, is all the research back then would always indicate Asia, Europe, especially Germans, it's always about GPU. Like discrete GPUs were really, really high on the list. Here in America, they didn't care. That's probably, I would hope, has changed because I always advocated for GPU over wanting 32 gigs of RAM in your stupid machine with IGP, but that was always a problem. I just wonder if there's sort of like really, and again, I mean when you're getting down to 4060 Ti, that's more mainstreamish. 16 gigs.
I think it used to be. That's where I agree with everything you're saying, but I disagree with that assessment to some degree. Yeah. I think it used to be mainstreamish. I think the reality is that's what GPUs cost these days. But nonetheless, I think the reality for everyday gamers like you and I, $400 to $500 is still a lot of money. I don't consider that mainstream whatsoever. If you're buying a graphics card rather than a console, like you're choosing to go do that. So I think there's quite a bit more knowledgeable gamers who's going to be buying the 60 class GPU this time around. Some of those enthusiast folks are like, man, there's no way I'm spending $800 on a 4070 Ti. I don't want to spend $600 on a 4070 to only play 1440p. I guess I'm holding out for the 4060 and 4060 Ti. And NVIDIA, is kind of in a quandary of its own making here because they've been incredibly aggressive about jacking up prices ever since the 20 series. The pandemic obviously helped with that. But NVIDIA was doing that the second it introduced ray tracing and DLSS. And the trend has just continued. But at the same time, they've been limiting the amount of RAM that are on these cards for whatever reason, while, modern ports use more RAM and ray tracing uses more RAM. So it's kind of a problem of their own making from all these different complicated factors.
Yeah. And I want to point out this comment from Freak777 Power. NVIDIA has no competition, and that's why they can price it the way they are doing. And I agree. I mean, again, we don't really know what exactly is the math behind their decisions on the size of the frame buffers here, but they're clearly the leaders. They own 70 to 80% of the graphics market for discrete and desktop. They probably have 90% of the graphics on laptop. And when you get in that is essentially the same position Intel was when they were like, you know what, $1,723 for a 10-core CPU, right? And
You're never gonna let that one go.
You can't because
you can't. Yeah.
No, I know, but I think it's amazing that that's just like Gordon's forever set point for that.
But it was that
high
inflection
reference.
point, right? That was really like an inflection point. Broadwell E 10 cores, 1,720. I mean, I don't know the prices of any other CPU except for that one, because that was really like, you're the market leader. Somebody from the accounting side says, we need more money. You need to make more money. Well, let's just make it $1,723 for 2 more cores. And it was like, and they did it. And of course, Ryzen showed up. It was just like this kind of weird inflection point. I don't think NVIDIA's hit that yet. And I don't really sort of see that coming. Do you? Because I mean, unfortunately, AMD and NVIDIA and Intel have not put pressure on NVIDIA the way I think we all expected them to. Although I guess the 4090 has taken a haircut, supposedly. I don't know if that's
all of the higher end cards have. The 4070 is the first card, or not the first card. All of the 40 series cards did not sell out at launch, aside, I think, from the 4090. The 4080 sat there in stock forever. They recently began having price reductions. The 4070 Ti, same deal. It started having price reductions. We've even seen discounts on some 4070s at this point. I don't think it's as bad as an inflection point as that $1,723 10-core chip was.
Right.
But I think with, inflation and the economy and everything being what it is, I think it's a bad time for NVIDIA to be trying to charge these prices. And I think they're facing that. Speaking of, do you guys want to take some guesses at prices for these if these rumors wind up proving true?
4070 was $600. $600.
Yeah.
I know people hate that S there. A lot of S's.
Sibilance.
Is that what it's called?
Sibilance. Yep.
Hell if I know. Okay, I'm gonna say 4060 Ti, $500.
Which one, 8 or 16?
You're right. I think that's gonna. Well, that kind of points to the 16 gig version, if it's true, being $500, because you can't price it the same as 4070 Ti, right? That makes no sense. So that kind of points to 4060 Ti at $600 and 4060 at $500. I think.
Let's see what the 3060 Ti. What was it when it came out? The 3060 Ti.
Was there even a 3060 Ti?
Yeah, there is.
What was it?
I don't even remember.
What was the price of those now?
I don't remember what MSRP was, but I mean,
what's the Newegg price in the 3060?
Oh yeah, there was.
Oh
yeah, that was the best card. There was the 3060 Ti kicked butt. That was $400. Yeah, $400. That was my favorite card last generation. Actually, you could never find it, so I totally went out of my head.
So yeah, if the 3060 Ti was around $400, then I bet the lower end version is going to be $450, and the 16 gig version is $500 or $520, something like that.
I'm going to guess the same $400 price for the 8 gig 4060 Ti.
Oh,
Possibly $450, but probably $500 for the 16 gig version. Because if all the reviews of the 8 gig version say this is a great card, it's a shame it doesn't have 16 gigabytes. They'll be like, all right, you can get the 16 gigabyte version for the $500 we would like to be charging. It's kind of like an upsell for them. And if that 4060 is truly 8 gig and truly gets announced at Computex as well, I would expect that to be the same $329 price point as the 3060, even though I think it should be $300.
Oh, wait. So there's 3 parts. So 4060 Ti, 16 gig, you're saying 5.
Yep.
4060 Ti, 8 gig, you're saying
4.
And then the 4060 8 gig for 350?
329. I think they're going to match the prices from last gen for the base models.
God, you know,
I
Yeah, I say $50 premium on all of the numbers you
I
gave.
would, given how these prices are higher than last gen, even with accounting for inflation, I have trouble thinking that they would not take the opportunity to put the standard 4060, whenever that becomes a thing, in that price slot at 400.
I think that was their original intention. But I think the realities of these cards, not a single one selling out throughout this generation at this point. We're already seeing sales and whatnot on these. I think they're going to try to hit the same prices as the last gen. That's just my guess. Again, NVIDIA reacting to the current situation, both with a 16 gigabyte buffer option, if that's true, and by reducing prices versus where they originally wanted.
I don't know. I'm not seeing any 4070s under 600 on Newegg.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
so
no.
so yeah, there's a lot of stock, but those prices aren't moving.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to think about MSRP. Yeah, there wouldn't be too many sales on 4070s yet. Those are 600. But it's cool that you see so many at $600 because it indicates that they're actually trying to hit MSRP as opposed to the higher end models in last gen when they would announce MSRP price.
Yeah.
They'd make like 5 of those and then there would only be 100 plus premium high end boards available.
Yeah, well, don't worry. There is a more
yeah.
expensive versions of the 4070 as well.
You know,
How much demand do we think is built up right now for the 500 and below price point? Because I feel like that segment has been ignored for a pretty long time. Like
5 years.
Substantially ignored. Like there have been like bones thrown in that direction, but I'm also wondering how much the pricing for a 4060 Ti would take that into account, right? Like I see where you're coming from on your argument that, you know, with it being kind of soft, the reception to the higher end cards, they might be more conservative about how they push the pricing on the essentially mid-tier cards. But if they also think that demand's super like kind of like just buried there, they might not move it as much or like keep it lower because they might think, oh, okay, maybe that's where we're going to get more of that demand. So I'm kind of curious what you think, and I guess everybody, what y'all think about how many people have just been sitting on older cards or just holding off because they just don't want to spend $600 for a graphics card.
I mean,
I know
of those
there's
people,
a lot of folks.
Well, but I think a lot of those people have found 30 series deals too, right? I mean, there's definitely been some good 30 series deals.
I think at this point, it has been half a decade since the affordable mainstream has been taken seriously, in my opinion, for initial release. I think at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of folks either bought a console, because you can easily find these days. You know, Intel Arc and the 6600 series are both really good. So if you were jonesing that bad, you might have picked that up already. But I think a lot of folks will only buy GeForce, sad but true. And so there probably is quite a bit of pent up demand. But at the same time, again, you know, $400 is a lot of money, and your money doesn't go as far as it used to these days. And this is definitely a luxury item. So,
yeah,
I think they're gonna have to take that into account, especially with these 8 gigabyte models. Now that that's such a big controversy.
Actually, Brad, you've convinced me, and I'm gonna retract my previous guesses, and I'm just gonna look over at your desk off the side of my eye. I'm gonna
write down in your paper.
I'm gonna write down the exact same things because I actually think 4060 8 gig for 329, 350 makes a lot of sense. You know, because
To you.
what?
to you.
No, it does make a lot of sense in a lot of ways because they know that anytime you have a relationship, they know they're the market leader. They've clearly been the market leader forever. And they know they may have to service that relationship a little more. So I could see Jensen coming out on stage. Remember, he's going to keynote at Computex. He comes out and he's now going to drop these cards at prices basically matching 30 class. And actually, the thing that's kind of made up, that's kind of baloney, internet lying to itself, is the 30 series cards were never actually MSRP. So that was a complete lie. You never could ever get them close to MSRP. But if you can actually get 40 series at MSRP, it patches up, this rough patch that they've had with, because they understand people are angry at them over prices, whether that's in their control or not. I don't know, but people are angry. He can come out, play hero, drop these things at, actual MSRPs where their previous cards never existed. And then now suddenly, will everybody forgive NVIDIA and like, oh my God, I can't quit you. I love you anyway kind of thing. Is that's what's going to happen? I think it could actually work and makes a lot of sense. And then it also services like, look, they know that Intel has gotten the plane off the ground. Yeah. And the fire's out on one of the engines. The gears have retracted. They're clearly launched. People actually look at those things. Pricing these things to be very competitive with Intel and put a dent on AMD because of their branding, that makes a lot of sense because you got down in that price range, you have to fight on price. So Brad, you've convinced me, and I kind of think that could be a big sell for Computex because it's like, I know you're really angry about these card prices. 40, 60, 329.
Oh, hey, Jensen's going to come out and do Bill Clinton.
I just think.
I just want to say for the audio listeners, this whole time that Gordon's been talking, Adam has just been sitting next to him shaking his head.
Yeah, because Jensen loves to come out and be the hero. Oh man, I can't wait to be the hero.
They don't necessarily love to be the hero, but they like to smash the competition. And right now,
I mean, listen,
making it $329 for a 4060, the same price as the ARC A770 is right now, sends a message to Intel. It also, they're trying to pick up the adoption of DLSS 3, and you need that. You need people who has that card in the hands of gamers to get developers to want to support it, even though it's taken off to a rocket start. And if you can, and you need 40 series for that. So if you can have the higher end money get coming in from the 4070, 4080, etc., but then say, hey, here's $329. It's finally time to get back on modern technology after 5 years of drought or whatever.
He already said it was safe
DLSS 3. Yeah, it was if the cards sold for the prices they were supposed to. To me, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think it makes sense because that is a really good way to. Hey, I know it's been rough. We still care about you. And
on the flip side of that, if you put out a 4060 8GB for $379, $50 upcharge or whatever, that's going to get probably hauled through the gutter in reviews would be my guess, because it would firmly be a 1080p graphics card for $800 that might stutter or $400 that might stutter in some games like Last of Us and other ones like that. So
but and I can also so we are gonna, Adam and I will be at Computex and Willis.
Hey,
we are gonna be there. Hopefully we can get into the keynote. I'm pretty sure we're gonna be there. Maybe we'll record Adam's. We'll record Adam's reaction because I think
Jensen's going to stop me at the door.
Look, the last time I saw Jensen live was at CES, Radeon 7, and then 2060 launch. And the 2060 launch was NVIDIA's feeling that they had, because they could not understand why people were so pissed off over the 20 series launch. I mean, I think it really confused them a little bit. And they really thought the 2060 was the thing that was going to make people happy. It didn't make people happy, but I mean so I do think there's really real precedent for that. Like, come out and here everything's good, right?
I'll take that bet. I'll take that bet.
Skeptical.
Yeah, Jensen doesn't need to be the hero.
He doesn't need to, and then
he's making plenty of money.
And then I think also at the problem too is it doesn't matter because I think NVIDIA's sort of in this weird position, and frankly, any market leader is always in that position. Intel was here at 1.2. No matter what you do, people are not going to be happy. So if they did a 40, 60, 8 gig for $329, when the 3060 internet did not ever come out at MSRP, that's actually pretty good. Even though the performance might be parity with conventional gaming, maybe better in some other areas or more advanced things, but I do think it's actually a pretty good bone to throw to people, right?
Yep. And you got to remember the 3060 was 12 gigs too. So if the 4060 comes out at the same price with the 8 gigs, there's a way to save some money right there.
Yeah. And then, you're going to get all the advanced features. So I think and then most people, I don't want to overly generalize, but the 4060 class buyer is not going to be watching 5 hours of YouTube videos before they buy it. They'll probably go, it's 1,000 more than the 3060 and it's better. Right.
I think you're underestimating a 4060 buyer.
Yeah, I would say
Gordon.
the cheap people
you're
watch
underestimating
a lot of video.
Like the more that takes of your budget, the more hours you have to spend working to afford that item, the more research you're going to do. Because you're confusing people who buy like OEM like Dells with a single slot with 75-watt card. Those buyers aren't going to be doing tons of research on things. If somebody's spending $300 to $400, don't be rude, Gordon. If someone is spending $300 to $400 on a card, and that is a lot of money for them, they sure as heck are going to be researching that. Not for the same reasons as someone who's a high-end buyer. A high-end buyer is going to be looking at that research because they want to be able to squeeze the absolute most performance out of those cards. They want the absolute best, and they want to see how much they can get for their money. A 4060 buyer is going to say, okay, how long is this card going to last me if I invest in this card? And they're going to research the heck out of that because they want their money to go far.
Actually, I agree with you, Elena, but to Gordon's point, at the 200 and the 300-ish price point, the 6650 XT beats the hell out of the 3050. And man, that thing is not selling the same. People are still buying the 3050. So right. and every chart I've ever seen is like, man, why would you buy a 3050?
So
we're talking about the card that had the weird caveat to it, aren't we? The one
that's a different one. That's the step down one.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
you're thinking of the 6500 XT.
Oh, okay, sorry, I misheard the number. That's why.
Yeah, sorry.
So the reason I'm disagreeing, and I actually agree and disagree. I do think that there's two classes of buyers there. One is the Elena type buyer that you're talking about. That is like, oh my God, wow, this is incredible. I've never seen copper wire stretched so thin. Oh, it was a penny. It was a penny. I gave it to a 4060 buyer in Elena, and damn. Like, look at this. This is like 3 nanometer copper wire. How'd you make that out of a penny? Well, you get it to the 4060 buyer. They are going to make you some 3 nanometer TSMC wiring right there. Those are the people that I think are very small and that, frankly, people don't know. I mean, it's a smaller crowd. People don't really care about them because those people that will circle that, they will circle that buy. It's like, man, this is... Okay, I've done my research, but you know what? I know if I wait till this day, I can get it for 40% less. So then you know what? Screw you, get out of my store. The vast majority of people that are buying in this class of range are pre-builts, OEMs, pre-builts, and they just want the bundle deal. They sell a metric ton of these things at stores. They see 60 class card. I think that really is the larger part of that market. I do agree that there are people like you that are making the 3 nanometer copper wires out of pennies. That's real, but that's just a smaller part of the market, I think. So that's the reason, my rationale.
You are changing the context of the conversation, though, at that point. I don't disagree with that point. However, when you're talking about people who are doing research, who are caring about a $400 card, those are people who are buying it a la carte, dude. Those are DIY people. Because if you're buying a pre-built, you're not typically going to be examining the like actual cost of the part versus the performance the way that someone that you're saying would or would not research would, right? They maybe at most would go to PC Part Picker and say, like, I guess if I were to do this myself, how much would it cost me? But probably not even that. They're probably just going to go, do I want to spend $1,200 for this system? Does it sound reasonable for $1,200? And then they're going to put their credit card number in, right? But that is different than the original argument you presented, dude. Like, that's
No,
not
because- no,
fair.
it's the same
You can't
thing.
change
Classic
it.
Gordon.
No, because
Classic
look,
Gordon.
You can't change it like that.
because
To be
what
fair,
I'm saying is the
Gordon
people
does
that are
that.
buying these cards, they're buying them in pre-builts. They don't
A lot of
really.
them are.
They're not going to be.
That changes your
Yeah,
original
no.
argument.
We were
But-
yeah.
Well, like,
The
so
thing-
you're
We were,
specifically
we were talking about
you're
like
talking about the penny people, right? You're specifically talking about the
We're
penny
talking
people.
about examining
we're
this
talking
card.
about DIY. Yeah.
Yeah, DIY, because those are the people who predominantly are going to be buying a card looking at the price just of the card, right? If we're talking about people who are upgrading a pre-built independently, like that's a whole different, even smaller segment if we're getting there.
The part that's interesting about all this to me is that competition might play a factor in this, because all the rumors right now suggest that AMD Radeon is going to, for now, skip the 7800 series and 7700 series and possibly launch a 7600 right around the same time frame. And during their recent quarterly statement, Lisa Su actually said we're going to be launching a mainstream GPU this quarter. So whichever, if they both launching 60 or 600 class cards, whichever, company manages to launch first really gets to set the tone and pace here. So we'll have to
That
see
would-
how aggressive both of them want to be.
That would be really interesting, right? Because the 16 gigabyte version of this 4060 Ti card supposedly would be coming out in July, right?
Yes.
So if AMD were to come out with a larger capacity VRAM card and in the same class, but in that same May timeframe, Computex,
Yeah.
or even in June before the other card comes out, that could give them an advantage.
Yep. So it's going to be an interesting May, I think.
And it makes sense too, because in that way, because we know, AMD being in, frankly, the weaker position on GPUs, they have to give you more for your money. So larger frame buffers, and I could see
They already do, and people still aren't buying them
I know, but I mean, I could sort of like, but
on the low end.
but it feels like it's really kind of reached that boiling point, and people are. But again, you're right, Adam. Ain't no one buying them, so I do wonder if like.
I mean, it really does surprise me. Like when I did that shootout at 280, and I'm actually doing testing for the $350 price point, I'm just like, wow. Like, I mean,
Huge difference.
yeah. If you're just gaming, the AMD version all day, all night. Like,
Yeah.
but
I just
But the
Still.
problem is, again,
they're not selling like that. So
yeah, the problem is the initial reviews, I think, for a lot of these. Like when that card launched, it cost a whole lot more. Now that the pandemic and some of the logistical issues are kind of somewhat behind us, these prices have dropped dramatically, and that's why they offer so much more money than the 3050 for the same price. But if you go look for the reviews of these things, it's still going to say, yo, how did they launch this at $380? That's way too much money. So I think that's the thing that both of these companies are going to have to try to navigate this time around.
I always
Yeah.
love the staring contest you get between both of them, and like, and it's just it's a high stakes poker game, because if AMD flips over the specs and the prices and this much memory, then Nvidia, they could either go like, okay, we're just gonna bluff you out of this and still go 8 gig cards, because maybe they don't do it because they know that people will buy a 4060 8 gig before they will buy a 16 gig Radeon, and that's just sad, right? Same thing for Intel too. They just don't.
which is well, I think you should dismiss his current poll, Willis.
Okay.
I want you to do one. Will Jensen play hero at Computex?
Okay.
Meaning, will Jensen come out and be like, hey, you know what? We didn't increase price, same price. He's going to be the hero.
Well, I just want to know if people are still going to like. Are they? I am almost certain that if it comes out at 329, then people are going to be, I'll still love you, man. I just think it's going to happen, right? Because we
mean,
know the internet's fickle.
if they were to come out that price, but 329 is a dramatically low price for a TI version of that card.
No, I think he's talking about
329
We're,
for
4060.
we're
4060.
talking non-TI. So the
Okay.
4060 non-TI, and I think it'll probably still outperform A770, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So then
yeah.
it just feels like they really need to. The funny thing is winding the clock back to when we thought Intel was going to actually show up and kind of disrupt the game here. It's been very delayed. Like that battle we thought was going to happen 2 years ago is now finally happening now, I think, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be
No,
it. right?
they're very compelling for budget gamers right now.
Yeah.
Intel is.
Also, friend of the show, Braythorn. Good to see you, buddy. Gave us $10 super chat. Thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. Said, trust me, Gordon, plenty of pre-built and or budget-oriented consumers are picky as hell.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking from personal experience.
I will say, but I think plenty are, but I also think my experience is plenty are mom or dad, I need a gaming machine with some RGB because that's what my favorite streamer has. Mom or dad goes to the internet and they look at this and they go click buy, right? Or they go
Are
to
you
pick
calling
it up with
Braythorn like young and like living with his parents?
No, I just think that at that class of buyer, I really think it's a different. And again, I'm only relying on 25 years of watching this segment. I really think that segment is very different. Not if you really believe that every single person here is stretching that penny out again to make that 3 nanometer wire. I don't think that really is that.
Gordon,
That is a larger portion of that class.
Gordon, I would never say that your experience doesn't count for anything. I respect you greatly. I do think that you are missing one point, which is that 25 years ago, 15 years ago, we did not have the proliferation of videos and information and people covering these kinds of performance things as we did, as we do now, rather. Right. So people who want to research have a lot more information at their fingertips. And I think people are doing more of it because it's easier to do that. Before you had to find a Gordon and corner him during a party and make him
We all
talk
did.
shop with you, right? Now you can just hop onto YouTube for several hours and, find somebody who speaks in a voice that, works for you. And you go, okay, I trust this person or I don't trust this person. Let me watch the next one. And now I have 4 different opinions and I can make an informed decision.
I guess, but I mean, again, Adam points out really good evidence here that none of that means doggy do because
There's a very vocal people.
there's clear evidence that A770 is an awesome buy for the money, and Radeon, as we have said here over and over and over again, is the better choice for price to performance. And it doesn't. That needle is like, wait, is this thing working? Because it still says 75% NVIDIA here. That doesn't make any sense because I've been watching all these videos and they say Radeon and Arc make a. No, it's not. It's working. It's working. So I think it's just, I don't really, that's why I would say that is true evidence that none of that means anything.
Which is why I think Jensen doesn't need to come out and play the hero.
No, but it's not that he, because again, one is he gets to play, I still love you, man. And then 2, he understands that Intel is going to go further and, they have the power of bundling and then this might be that war we were always waiting for. It's just unfortunate that it's down at that sub $400 category.
Why is that unfortunate?
Well, because we were really hoping we would have something to drive 4090, 4080 down. Like that's where the battle, like 4070. But everybody has come up short, and NVIDIA can do what they do because they're kicking everybody's ass, right? And that's the way you do it. You are for profit business. You want to make as much money as what you want, and nothing. There's nowhere in any boardroom that's like, hey, should we lower prices to make everybody happy? And the entire board is like, what? Who said that? Who said that? No, I didn't say it. It was.
It sounds like you're agreeing.
Nobody said that. No, but I mean, again, I'm not saying. I'm not saying it's for the optics, but the optics would appear. I think it's because they understand that there's a real battle they have to pull off here. Yep. And if they can put Intel in their grave, because let's face it, Arc is kind of still hanging on by their fingernails. If NVIDIA can come over and step on those fingers and push them off the cliff, that's really good for NVIDIA long term, right? So I again, part of it's optics, part of it's practical business that they understand there is a brewing war here that they have to worry about. So
well, don't forget, I also want to remind everyone. I don't think I'm going to go out on a limb here, but most of the Computex keynote is not going to be about GeForce and gaming. It's
Yeah.
going to be about AI
yeah.
and driving
We'll see.
cars and business
The
relations.
RTX Titan.
Coming out and shaking hands of its business partners. So yeah, the gaming section is going to be a small part of this.
Yeah.
So
God, I would be really cool. We'll see. I think it's going to happen.
Oh, so out of 177 votes so far right now says 68% says no, Jensen will not play Hero at Computex.
Yeah, I mean, because that's, again, when you're the market leader, when you've been kicking everybody's ass, believe me, everybody comes out to now suddenly like, oh boy, it's the end of the dynasty. They're so happy to just come on, just dump on your head, because that's the way it is when you're on top. People want to kick you down the stairs, and I understand it. And that's the position they're in. So frankly, the fact that there's 30% that are saying the opposite, I understand. But again, I'm with Brad. Brad convinced me here. Brad?
all right. Well, we'll see.
329.
A couple weeks
We
away.
will see, but I think 68%.
Well, let me ask the last
going to be
question.
wrong.
Last question, Brad. Because I kind of wonder, 4060 is not going to be like a huge uplift in performance over 30 series. Do you prefer 30 series or 40 series, though? Even though we're guessing
It'll depend on pricing. But my guess would be if they price it reasonably, I would rather get a 40 series.
Yeah. Okay.
A 4060 or 4060 Ti.
Got it. Just checking.
All right. I mean, we've already gotten plenty angry, but we should probably move over to our next segment about other people getting angry. We should we should back it up. I mean, we've talked about rage ponies before, outrage ponies before.
But you're angry about it.
Yeah,
Adam.
of course. Yeah. I mean, we get angry every week on the show, but Gordon, why specifically are we talking about angry PC gamers on the show?
So we're talking about it because there's a column written by Luke Plunkett. He's a writer over at Kotaku. He's based out of Australia. We were actually trying to get him on the show. Unfortunately, it's like
He's sleeping.
3 a.m. in the morning in Australia. He didn't feel like waking up early, so he said, "Hey,
How rude."
So I do want to point out that we are talking about his column because that's what got us all hot about it. But we're not going to just do this to take a hit out of Luke because we did want him on here.
No.
And again, please go over, go to Kotaku, look up Luke Plunkett, Plunkett.
I just shared it in the chat too.
And his column is basically, the headline is PC gamers are getting angry at all the wrong people. With the subhead of everything feels increasingly broken and expensive, and there's frustration in the air. I'll read the first graph. If you've been even remotely connected to PC gaming over the last year or two, you'd have felt some heat radiating off the community, a rising sense of frustration that things are bad and just keep getting worse. Many PC gamers feel like they're reaching a breaking point, and it's hard not to sympathize. The PC game, blah, blah, blah. PC gaming, basically has been hit by, high prices of GPUs. AAA games have sucked. The ports have sucked. Everything is bad, he says. But he actually then pivots around to say that everybody's anger is kind of misplaced here. Fine.
Well, but he's also saying the anger is like everywhere. Some people are blaming the devs. Some people are blaming hardware manufacturers. Some people are blaming the greedy executives, the management, the QA teams aren't doing enough QA. So yeah, and just, I actually think it doesn't end on the strongest of note of like, okay, well, who should people be getting angry at, and what should they do? I mean, I think a lot of us are like, yeah, vote with your wallet. I was expecting that kind of ending of like, hey, if you don't like it, go with that. He does kind of end it a little bit like that, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of the general idea is that there's a lot of rage to go around, but at the end of the day, who should we be getting angry at, Gordon?
Well, and let me read his last. The way he ends it is like, I get that people are angry, but it might be time to stop getting angry at the trees and try getting angry at the forest instead. Basically,
that the system itself is what is perpetrating this.
And if it doesn't make you feel better, you can always just walk away from the woods. So,
I mean, most people aren't going to walk away from PC gaming, but
well, I mean, really, because I mean, he just says a lot of it's just misplaced because it's the classic, hate the game, not the player kind of thing. Because
his point is these are all for-profit companies trying to maximize their profits.
Right.
So he's saying that's the real, demon or whatever behind all this.
Which, I mean, is hard to say because then it's pointing to us, right? I mean, they're maximizing profits because people are continuing to buy it. I mean, that's the whole thing with the Nvidia thing. Like, man, why are they having these such high prices? Well, I mean, because people are buying them at those high prices, and it sucks for the people who know better or do their research or, have different ideas on it. But it's like, at the end of the day, they're selling these at high prices and things are coming out broken on the game side. I guess that's a whole other thing, but I'm talking about hardware. But it's like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, people are buying them. So
yeah, it's things these days, because I'm a firm believer in voting with your wallet. These days it's hard. It feels like even when you have a chance to vote with your wallet, you're making some sort of compromise. Because if you're coming from a few generations back when you could get 4080 8 GB that could play 1440p games for $250. And now if you want to play 1440p games without dialing stuff back, you got to spend $450. Like, that's just is what it is these days. So I agree with this concept of it is what it is. If you're mad at the forest, walk away from it.
And
which is a hard spot to be in.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I also don't think that's the most practical advice either. Like that,
To
that's
walk
why
away?
I kind of don't like the ending. Is like the advice isn't just like, oh well, shut up and walk away. It's kind of I know he's not saying it in those kind of terms, but that's how it feels like. It's like, well, if you don't like it, walk away. It's like, no, I mean there are other options.
There are other options. To me, a takeaway that I took reading that article, which I thought was actually a great article.
No,
I found myself nodding for 95% of it.
Same.
All these issues that we're having these days are big budget AAA games. And admittedly, that's what a lot of people like to play. Like if you're buying a brand new high-end 40 series graphics card, it's because you want to play with DLSS 3. You want to turn on ray tracing. You want to play Jedi Survivor, The Last of Us when it comes out, et cetera, et cetera. But PC gaming is so much more than that. And there is a Reddit community called Patient Gamers that's really awesome. And they're all people who are like, hey, I just like wait a year to play games. And then by then you can get them a lot cheaper. Everything was a problem. It's all patched now. And as a bonus, it can usually run on lighter hardware. There's indie games all over the place. There's all kinds of things out there. So there are other things you can do and still have a lot of fun and play within reasonable budgets. But it might just take changing how you look at how you play games.
I think I have a slightly different take on the premise of this article than everybody else in this discussion.
Okay.
I think it was a very well written article. I think the points were very elegantly argued. But I just agree with the basic premise that people shouldn't complain is kind of what I kind of got from it too, which is like, let me just explain to you why it's not worth it to be so upset. Like, here are some other more practical things you can do, which is one, walk away if you really can't stomach it. And I think that's a little unfair because I think that in the end, if a company is going to put out a product that is not in ready shape on day one, it is absolutely justified for people to have commentary on that. Now, if they're being particularly violent about it or uncivil, that's definitely something to criticize, right? But I think in general, criticizing something because it's not in a ready state when somebody is telling you it's a ready state is justifiable. Like, you wouldn't want a restaurant that's celebrated for their pizzas to put a half-baked pizza on your table and say, well, just like give it 20 minutes, it'll finish cooking, right? Like, you want it to arrive at your table ready to eat. And I think that there's a lot to be said for corporations who are admittedly pushing their development teams, rushing, the development, assuming that they can rely on day one patches. We've complained about this in the games industry for over a decade at this point about putting games out that aren't ready, right? And so I think if people have gone to a point where they are just like, you know, we've had it. We are getting it from all sides. We are getting bad ports. We are getting ridiculous prices on cards. Like, this is not acceptable. I think it is fair for people to say that. And I think it's fair for people to try to push for better change. Like, me personally, my take is that, like patient gamers, yeah, it's disappointing that I have to wait another 6 months for a game that I desperately want to play. But I'd much rather wait those 6 months and have an enjoyable day one experience than for me to go, why did I spend $70 on this? I should have just waited, right? So I mean, if you're somebody who likes to save a buck, like, yeah, I mean, the current system allows you to wait your 6 months and then get a discount because it launched so poorly. They had to make it up to people somehow, right? But I don't think that's an enjoyable emotional experience for anybody. So I think that what's disappointing to me is that there is no good way for people to really be heard in this current system. So I definitely agree with the premise that there's something wrong with the forest, but I don't think anybody's really tackling that as an issue. And that's my take on this. That even as somebody who is not, I only really play Overwatch 2 now on PC. Mm-hmm. So I'm not super qualified to complain about ports because I'm playing it on console. I'm not really encountering issues if I am playing big blockbuster games on day one. But just watching it is painful. And I think there's something to be said for that. If it's so bad that on the silence, I'm like, oh, that,
also
should be talked about.
It's not directly related to this, but you did have an article recently that we actually didn't talk about on the show about leaving PC gaming for console land. Or what was the title? Sorry, I don't want to butcher it.
It was really simple titles. Like, I switched from PC gaming back to console gaming. And some of it has to do more with like physical concerns where it's like I've had like a lot of eye fatigue. And so I've been trying to experiment more with like different focal distances and stuff like that, which I get when I'm sitting in front of my TV further back than just being planted at my monitor all day. The fact that I do play a lot more games that come out on console first. Or are in better shape when they launch on console, things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not an indictment of PC gaming.
So I want to point out in Luke's column, he does point to, ports, the Flameouts really recently being a big part of this. Last of Us, the Redfall, and just all these really, really bad ports.
It's been so bad. So bad.
Luke points to a Twitter thread from Twitch streamer Casey Explosion, where she says, quote, folks, PC ports weren't fine back in the day. Buggy and broken PC release aren't a new phenomenon, and to claim otherwise is pure revisionism. That's if you even got a port in the first place. A lot of Japanese studios simply wouldn't release games on PC at all. Follow-up tweet, a lot of older ports were just afterthoughts. That is, if you were lucky enough to get a port in the first place, and if it was broken, they'd just leave it with no hope for an update or patch. You'd be stuck with a mess. Ports getting fixed at all feel relatively recent to me. So
sorry, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just want to point out.
I agree with everything. Go ahead.
I'll finish off Casey's long Twitter post that she said basically the improvement now is we actually get active service. So they'll release all these new high-profile games. They'll be busted up, uncooked pizzas, but they will come, take it back away from your table and cook it, and then you actually get they fix them fairly quickly. Is the overall impression that she's saying?
A lot of them.
I agree with everything she says there. It used to be a lot worse. These days, back in the day, some games would only run on certain brand graphics cards, and that's not the case anymore. That being said, part of the reason this is such a big issue is because the state of PC gaming and PC gaming releases has vastly improved over the last 5 or so years. Like ever since the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One switched to x86 architecture, went to AMD APUs, like we started seeing tons more PC ports. They've been doing really, really well, possibly because they were built for the older generation consoles, which were much more modestly built. But the reason so many people are getting into PC gaming is one, esports, but two, also these days you can reasonably expect if you spend $50 to $70 on a new game, it will work on the PC. You won't have that many headaches. Drivers just update, it works. And that's not the case the last few months with Like every single big name game coming out is busted, and it's so bad. Like I agree that it's better than it used to be back in the day. I think it got better, and now we're reverting, and that's really bad.
I pretty much was going to say something very similar to you, Brad, which is that, yeah, I mean, I don't think I can see how somebody would see it as a revisionist take, but I don't personally get that vibe from these complaints at all. I see it more as new blood almost coming in and saying like, why is this going this way? I was promised an experience that it's, good, and it's not. It's like when someone gives you a restaurant recommendation, you go there and you're like, whoa, what is this? Like, what is wrong with my friend's like taste in restaurants and service, right? And I honestly think that I get the viewpoint where it's like, man, we've gone through some crap, right? Like we are just grateful that it's not crappy anymore. I understand that viewpoint, but I also think that there's another way to look at this, which is it is a good thing to have new voices and a broader opinion come in and say like, hey, you don't have to live that way anymore. There is a newer standard for this, and you should expect to be treated better. And we're going to be vocal about that. And I don't think the discourse, I mean, there's always going to be obviously fringe elements, but I think the discourse has largely been respectful, just, very persistent about saying like, no, we expect a certain standard and this is not meeting our standard. This is not acceptable.
Yeah, if you're going to spend $400 on a 1080p graphics card and $70 on a game that's loaded with additional DLC, like that stuff should work. Like speaking as a consumer myself, like I expect that to work if I spent $500 up front for those two things.
The one perspective I do agree with, because again, Case Explosion was like, yeah, it actually used to be worse. I agree. I guess the one thing I want to say is like, I'm actually surprised that it feels like and this may not be true, but it still feels like PC gamers, and I'm a PC gamer. I think like we're still treated as second class citizens for some strange reason. Like it is bizarre to me where it just feels like the PC is recognized to have a seat at the table now. You don't have Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo and everybody trying to actively, put us in a grave. So we're accepted. It's the premier gaming platform. And yet these games come out and they are just, kind of busted up. And it really is kind of surprising, because if you have a seat at the table, you don't expect to be crapped on like the way you are with these ports. And it feels like that. But I do wonder, it's like maybe that's my perspective, because again, I'm clearly biased for PC gaming, but console games come out pretty broken too these days. I mean, there are a lot of broken ass console games that come out. It feels like it's not just PC games that come out broken too, right? It's everything.
It's not just, but I would say that I think that console, it tends to be more cantained, right? Like, because I mean, this is a group of people. Yeah, like they can't afford to alienate a group of people who literally cannot go in and tinker, right? Like they can't find workarounds for it. There's just not that flexibility. And so I think that on my opinion, I think PC gamers are getting it worse. So
I have some.
I was just going to finish the thought, which is just that I do think that it is fair to say that PC gamers are getting it worse, and that the complexity of porting to PC is not as seamless a process as it could be.
Sorry, I thought when you said making it worse, and you paused, I thought that was the end. I wasn't trying to.
No, I know. I was just trying to gather what I saw.
That actually ties into what I was going to say, actually. My conspiracy theory / musings here are a couple things. One, I think all these companies understand that the PC is big business. Sony just came out and said, we're going to start doing more PC ports because they're making money hands over fist with these. Despite Last of Us coming out as a mess, it's still a good game. It just showed up as a technical mess. The other ones, they're making tons of money. PC Gamer just yesterday had a post about how for the first time in history, this is going to be the year that Activision makes more money off of PC games than it does off of console games. So, like, the PC is big business. My conspiracy theory / musing, I would love a chance to talk to some devs to see if this is true, is I wonder if DirectX 12 kind of screwed us.
Really?
Yeah, because people forget kind of the start of the renaissance for PC gaming was DirectX 9 and DirectX 11 making it so developers could make these games that just work on every hardware. The big appeal of DirectX 12 is that you get down closer to the metal. You can more directly affect how it's right into these hardware to eke more performance out of it, to get ray tracing out of it, stuff like that. But at the same time, it adds a lot more complexity. So I wonder if DirectX 12's complexity and needing to, write PC code for drivers for NVIDIA, AMD, and now Intel as well makes a difference. And I think the fact that developers, the way that games handle memory and textures are different on consoles because both Xbox Series S and PlayStation 5 have ultra fast SSDs and memory technology built around it that aren't quite the same as what's on PC. I wonder if between the two of those is a big part of the reason why we're seeing so many issues on the PC. It's just gotten too complex because we're trying to eke out every last bit of performance.
Game development from home. I mean, Dr. Ian Cuttress is in the chat. He keeps talking about game development at home being a problem. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff all around.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense in a way, Brad, because I kind of wonder if, when Sony did its Cell, remember in the Cell PlayStation, it was kind of a disaster because it was so hard. The tool sets didn't exist. It was really hard to write for. I kind of wonder if by the time we got to PS5, they made sure damn well that everything was, all the tool sets are right, everything worked. And, because of a little more universality of DirectX, because they had to service Xbox, they had to service PC. There were just more hands in it. There were more partners. I kind of wonder if that made it messier for it. And it'd be interesting to see if, I don't know, because it really comes, again, I'm not a console person, but I wonder if more games came out broken for Xbox current gen. I don't even know what the stupid model numbers are versus PS5, right? Because I wonder if, because they had their nailed down tool sets, everything worked better. Whereas maybe the tools just weren't ready for on DirectX based platforms, and that kind of was a mess.
You weren't here the day Brad Schumacher and I talked. I actually pointed out the fact that a lot of these troublesome games are PlayStation first games and AMD sponsored games. So I wouldn't be surprised if something in the way that, the PlayStation handles, because the way it can get texture memory much faster than a PC can. The vast majority of PCs can. And I just deeply suspect that there's something technical involved there that's helping to cause all this.
For the port to PC from PlayStation.
Yes.
Even though it's x86 based on Radeon.
Yep, but it's still different software with not quite pure x86 architecture. It has the way it handles memory streaming specifically. I can't get into the details right now. I can't talk the nitty gritty, but it's very different.
Yeah.
And I think that might be part of it.
Huh.
Well, and Skeet Sayer gave us a $5 Canadian super chat. Thank you so much. Said, I have a RX 7900 XT. Why do I not see the same issues with new AAA games? I mean, some of these things can be surmounted by just better hardware, for sure.
Yeah.
Raw
brute force and memory capacity.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know your full setup, but maybe you're seeing less problems than others are. I mean, same thing for me. Like Redfall. When I did that video for Redfall, I could replicate a specific areas on the map where the frame rate would tank, and every time I switched to a new GPU, I would go to that same exact area, and it would just drop. Right? It was like clockwork.
Is it where they were swapping textures out there?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But when I play, I have a more powerful system, and I usually cap my frame rate because I play on TV, so 4K 60. So with that cap frame rate, I don't feel those dips because I'm able to kind of brute force past it. So yeah, so there definitely are situations where maybe you're not feeling it as bad as others, but that doesn't mean the problem isn't there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic solution we've always had on PC forever is we throw more hardware to fix all the problems, right? That's always
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, and then somebody pointed out earlier, it's like we put the most money into this, yet we get the least amount of service. And then it's fundamentally what it feels like. And Yeah, again, old timers was like that's what it's always been like, but it feels especially worse now for some reason. So it just sucks.
I think it does suck. I think there is something we can do about it, and I think that a lot of PC gamers are doing about it, and that is voting with your wallets. Like, as we were just discussing, like all of these high-end modern GPUs that have come out so far have not sold out, AMD or NVIDIA. All these games coming out, people were super excited for Jedi Survivor, for Last of Us, for Redfall, and them showing up busted as heck. Like, I'm sure they're going to sell a whole lot less than they would have if they came out polished and awesome. So, and then they'll have to take months fixing it up, which is very expensive. And then when people get around to buying them, if they are eventually fixed, they're going to buy them for a whole lot cheaper than they would have at day one. So, you know, vote with your wallet. It works.
Yeah.
That's the way you get $329 4060s.
But one thing I do want to address though is like the anger, because I understand frustration, like, oh, this sucks. But the problem is I think everything today is interpreted as a tantrum, because there's a certain point where people are so angry about every single little thing, everything, and they're just throwing blame. They're trying to blame somebody for every single thing. And I think that's what has just gotten everybody tired, because I can't go into a stupid McDonald's anymore and just walk out within like 3 minutes, because it's always like, geez, is it that hard to make a Big Mac? It's like, really? You don't have the ingredients to make a Big Mac? You don't have one sitting in the microwave? But it feels like as we know, most of our world feels like it's kind of falling apart, and we're still trying to recover from it. So I guess the tantrums over some of this feels like screaming in the lobby of McDonald's at somebody. And I think that's and I think that's why there's definitely some of the pushbacks. Like, come on, like you look back there, look at the person at the stove. Like they got like 4 spatulas trying to, like, I can't get anybody to work, right? It's just like there's just something weirdly broken about the entire world. And just getting on the internet and just screaming your head off and pounding your fist on the table all the time, it's not helping, right? I just don't. It's just something like, okay, later, see that Burger King next door? Gonna go get is it the Whopper? I'm gonna go get a Whopper.
I think it's very worthwhile to express your dissatisfaction publicly, like with all these, because things don't change unless people raise their voice about it.
Agreed.
But I think the big issue is a lot of people are entitled and are directly like DMing developers and people from NVIDIA and AMD and stuff. And if you do that, you're an asshat.
Yeah, no, I like 100% agree with both viewpoints, right? Where it's like, yeah, people are tired of this kind of pushing, but I think it's because people are doing it in really inappropriate ways, right? Like I think you all saw the news blurb on PC Gamer about the poor Vega owners who got shut out of playing Call of Duty with like the latest patch. I think it was like for one of the Warzone games and one of the Modern Warfare games. And I think one of them was so desperate that they sent a pizza to the developers with a note that said, "Help Vega, please," which is like, fun. Okay. See, but the thing is like, that's still really inappropriate in my opinion. It's like, like crossing that line into like contacting the developers in that way is just like just a little bit crossing that line. But it's like also so wholesome.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
It's like, it's not like they're screaming at them or like being rude about it. But I think it's like people just, I don't know what it is about today's like populace in general. I don't know. Just people don't understand that the target for the complaints really should be, and this is where like a radical Elena shows up, where it's like publicly traded companies are beholden to the shareholders, right? Like they have to make their numbers, so they don't make, in my opinion, they don't make long-term decisions that are always best for the product, even for the company in some ways, because it's probably the reason what's happening is that somebody's looking at these accounting sheets and they're like, we have to release this game in Q2 because we have to make these numbers. And the developers are probably the ones who are saying like, it's not ready for Q2. Like we are going to get so much flack. It is going to blow up on our faces. We should be launching in Q4. And they're like, sorry, you have to make it work in Q2. And then we'll just do crunch time or whatever to patch it. Right. So the people you should be complaining to are not the developers. You should be complaining and like aiming your complaints at management at the people who are making these decisions, because they're the ones who are pushing these decisions. It's not the people who work on things like in your own work and our work. Like Brad can tell you this, where he's like, give me the story. And I'm like, it's not ready, Brad. I don't want people to see it like this. He's like, give me the story.
all that scenario you mentioned, Elena, it's kind of like, have you seen Mystic Quest? Anyone? It's pretty much like that. It's all politics and just, management behind the scenes of launching a new game,
That's the Apple TV one with
Yes.
the dude from Always Sunny, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so developers care about their product, right? They don't want their names attached to a product that's broken. So there are outside factors. So yeah, if you are contacting developers and verbally abusing them or worse, you are a terrible person. You're a very
Asshat.
terrible
you
person.
You can't scream at the person taking your money at the cashier at McDonald's. It's not right. But at the same time, no, I what?
The McDonald's.
It just always comes back to McDonald's. Are you hungry?
Where's the AI muffin reference?
Yeah, no,
I'm hungry too, but
I'm just saying. But I do think, no, I get it because, and again, believe me, I talk smack about management all the time because that's easy. Because you know what? Because complaints go up. But I also realize though,
yeah, Brad.
I'm his boss and can confirm.
No, but I also don't think. I think there's something far more complicated we're not understanding. Because I think the easy thing is to go like, well, it's not the people in the trenches making the games that we love or QA. It's management making decisions. And I think, as much as we want to always ascribe management to just simply not knowing what they're doing, oftentimes it's just simply the reality that it is a terrible situation. That, yeah, look, I sure would like to give you one more quarter, but by then, basically, unless you want to work on this game for free when we've all been fired from this company because we go out of business, it's not going to happen. So you have to make this happen no matter what. That's why they have these deadlines. There could be business decisions behind it.
So once again, it goes up.
Well, it goes up, but I wonder if there's distress that we are not seeing. And actually, one of the emails I had with Luke, who again wrote this great column over at Kotaku. Go read it. PC gamers are getting angry at all the wrong people. I just wonder if everything is just simply threadbare. Like there's just simply something non-sustainable with game development as currently. Like maybe the business models are broken. Maybe it's just simply that the money is not there anymore. Free to play, there's mobile, there's just so many things that are just pushing on them. I know it's easy to think it's just some executive driving away in a Ferrari that's to blame for everything, but I suspect there may be something else going on. And Luke said, yeah, I actually think that is really, I think that's kind of what the column gets to, is that everything is under distress. The entire industry, the business models are just simply under distress. And if you're looking for something very easy to blame, it doesn't really exist because I don't, maybe it's just not there anymore,
Well, I think the point of his column is more not necessarily that the business are under distress and not doing well, because all these companies are shattering previous records. AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, the game companies. I think the point of the column is that it's the nature of capitalism itself, which is a very Kotaku take on things. Because, which, I agree with this column, to be honest. The idea is, yes, you made, Activision, great. You made $10 billion last quarter. We expect growth. Shareholders expect growth. So how do you make $12 billion this quarter, $14 billion next quarter, and so on and so on?
Right.
So
short-term quarterly profits is how our entire system is built on. But
yeah. I think we're gonna see a rebalancing soon. I think we're gonna see things start to go right a little bit, because it does to me feel like we're kind of at an inflection point. And part of that equation is if you keep putting out stuff that isn't appealing and is very expensive and then tries to nickel and dime you more through DLC or doubling the memory or an ad up variant or anything like that, like people do get sick of that and people stop buying. And when sales come down, like when people stop buying it, it does make a difference eventually. That's why we constantly see these swings that things get really expensive and then, oh no, we went too far and now things are getting more affordable again. I think we're just at a bad time for that right now.
So here's the other question though, because is it, and again, I have no insight into how the game's business is done, but is it similar to Hollywood where you basically have, again, 12 stinkers and you get one Marvel movie and like, oh, that's it?
No.
It's
more like you've been working on one game for 5 years, it better hit.
Yeah.
Well, but they have other games too, the studios.
I mean, it depends.
The publishers do, right?
Well, the publishers, yeah, that's one thing. Developers, it depends. Like sometimes there's multiple teams under the same developer, but I mean, a lot of times it's like, it's not scattershot like Hollywood. No.
I don't think you're wrong, though, Gordon, in seeing a trend that's like a little bit of a parallel trend, though, which is that companies are gravitating towards what's safe for their bottom line, right? So that's why you see things that weren't originally designed to become multi-year, multi-decade franchises become multi-year, multi-decade franchises because it's easier to release another John Wick movie because it's going to make your box office numbers. And similarly, like you're going to release another Call of Duty or Battlefield because that people are going to buy it again, another Madden, another FIFA, right? Like that, those are what then sustain like your like smaller pursuits. Like if you own a smaller studio that wants to do like some kind of more indie-ish title, that helps pay for that, right? So I think it kind of connecting back to the previous conversation where it's that we've have a model now, right? Where it's like almost games are becoming too big to fail, right? They can't really, which is what makes it even weirder, right? That they're launching these broken games. And I think that's honestly why people are also complaining, right? Where way back, like decades ago, you'd have stinkers, but you'd be kind of like, well, that kind of sucked. And you just kind of took it at face value. But now it's like everything's so big, everything's so expensive that you expect it to work when it's launched. So then there's also that equally large outcry in response to the fact that it's like, this is all you're giving us, so it better be good.
And to be fair, like it's kind of our fault too, because the games that a lot of people buy, the big blockbusters, playing on the latest hardware, all of this stuff is very complex and very expensive. Making a modern 5 nanometer GPU with ray tracing cores, tensor cores, standard cores to play a game that's running Unreal Engine 5 that is basically movie quality visuals that run in real time. Like all that stuff takes a lot of time and money. So you don't like what you're seeing, maybe think about how you're contributing to it as well. Like I play a lot more indie games these days, so I always have, but I've been noticing myself playing a lot more. So.
And indie games work fantastic on the Steam Deck usually. So
yeah,
low end hardware.
Oh boy, it sounds like basically a crap sandwich. Everybody's gonna be handing around the table.
We do have a couple super chats. Mark Gallant gave us 11 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. Said most AAA game new releases run smooth on Radeon. Public opinion is that game runs bad on NVIDIA, then it's a game dev's fault. But if the game runs bad on AMD, it's the Radeon driver's fault. This feels like a double standard.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that statement, to be honest. I think that, again, I think AMD saw where it was going. And, all the consoles, like the game developers make these games consoles first. Like that's a fact of life. And those consoles do run on AMD, so they're being optimized for Radeon hardware to begin with, Radeon cores. And AMD saw it coming and just put a lot more memory on there. So it's not necessarily that, I don't agree with that.
Yeah. I and also I'm not sure anybody can really quantify most works better, so that's a little problematic for me. But
a lot of these have been kind of janky on everything. So
yeah, and it is really, and I think it's also people need to tune expectations because we have for consoles. It really isn't that. Again, it's very easy to tune for consoles generally because there's just so far fewer models to tune for. Every year we add new GPUs. We now have a third GPU maker. We have more CPUs. The old CPUs don't go away. The old graphics cards don't go away. And it's just like every year you just add more and more and more hardware that is possible for things to be broken on. So I mean, you can't. I mean, it's terrible to ask somebody to have patience if you just bought a game for $60, $70, but I don't know how you get out of that. But it's just sort of expected that there might be some unsmooth things. But the crazy thing is, like, you would think on the newest hardware would be tuned for, but even on new hardware, it just is not running very well. And I don't know what the hell's going on. It is kind of crazy to me.
Yep. Also, Crazy CES1 gave us $5 super chat. Thanks so much. Said $700 allowed for 4K gaming in 2017. Why should people accept $1,000 being the starting for 4K 60 AAA cinematic game point? Sorry, I was going to hold that to Q&A actually, but
Oh,
I read the wrong note.
wait, what year was that?
2017.
Because you know what immediately I'm going to do.
I think they're talking about 1080 Ti. Oh yeah.
I'm going to go to the inflation calendar.
Well, here's the second part of it. Oh, you know what? I guess we're switching over to anything else on the angry.
No, people are angry.
I think
And
we said enough.
Yeah.
I don't
okay.
know what the hell to do about
Let's
it.
go to the switch over Q&A. If
Alright.
you have a question at PC World in the chat, it's easier for me to see it. And if you're watching or listening to this later, there's a link to the Discord in the description. Got some fine folks over there, and there's a channel where you can put a question. Anyway, back to this. They say inflation is real, Gordon,
Yes.
but so is technological advancements.
I
Yeah.
agree.
We've gotten huge technological advancements. Frankly, a $700 graphics card going to kick the crap out of a 2017 graphics card, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, inflation calendar says about $870, $700 to about $900 now, basically.
You know, side note for the inflation thing, or whatever technological advancements. I was listening. Our friends Brad and Will made a tech pod. Great podcast. Go listen to it. They had a special edition of their FOSS pod where they had the guy who runs Raspberry Pi. I don't know if he invented it or he runs it. Whatever. A really good episode.
Evan Upton.
Yeah, really good episode. And he was talking about there's actually two ways to do Moore's law. So Moore's law is usually typically thought of like, oh hey, you're going to double the amount of power every XYZ. I don't know the equation, but for Raspberry Pi it was more like, okay, well actually we can get the same level of power for twice as cheap. So they're using Moore's law in the opposite direction, which I think is interesting. So good episode. Good listen.
I do also want to point out that the whole inflation calendar calculator that's a generalization. It doesn't factor in things like TSMC charging 30% more for leading edge wafers, right?
Yeah, and shipping still costs a lot, like more than it used to. It's a lot down from the pandemic era. Like I don't have to try to find people at cargo companies to try to tell me what it costs to ship things overseas anymore. But it's still a lot higher than it was.
Yeah, I mean the crazy thing is like you had to like oh no, this container is mine, right? Like
Yeah.
oh gosh.
Anyway, some more questions. Friend of the show, Pedro Akura, asked a question about VRAM. My 3070 with 8 gigs is not being enough in the future, playing at 3440 by 1440p, so ultra wide. Will I have to turn down settings in the future games to get 60 FPS?
I mean, at some point, that's always true. But I would think that as long as you're not playing on Ultra, I think that would hold up fairly well in the vast majority of games right now. Like, the thing with ultra wide is that it's even more strenuous than 1440p. It's like halfway between 1440 and 4K. So I would think that between increasing VRAM demands and just games demanding more grunt force, you might have to turn things down to high in some specific titles. But that being said, I think most people should do that the vast majority of the time anyway, because it runs faster and looks 95% as good. But if I was primarily running an ultra wide, I would not necessarily be thinking about upgrading this generation unless I found a really good deal and could sell my old card. But maybe think about upgrading to something with more VRAM next generation.
Okay. I had a good question earlier in the pre-show, actually. I don't know if they're still around, but Ivan Ramazanov, yes. I'm going to go with that. Asked Is a person who plays via streaming services like GeForce Now considered a PC gamer?
I think so. I mean, I personally vastly prefer, like, even though I was, take GeForce Now, take a shot. That was during the pandemic. I would much rather have an actual graphics card, run stuff locally, etc. But in the end, you're still playing PC games via a computer.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, in agreement. That one was easy.
Labels are stupid anyway, man.
Couple more questions. I know Brad's got to get out here. Crap. Where did I put that one? Oh yeah. I saved this one for you, Brad. Coming in.
Okay.
Champ 8007 asked if there is a 4050, would it be a super cut out version of the 4060? If there's a 4050, sorry. I don't know if I misspoke.
There is 4050 because it's available in laptops. And I'm not sure what the specifications are off the top of my head, but I would look there, figure that out.
It's definitely it's going to be less.
It might be the same GPU die super cut down. It might be an even cheaper GPU die that just is smaller to begin with, so they can cram more into a wafer. But if you look at the laptop stuff, that'll give you a pretty good indication. It's real interesting that NVIDIA launched with laptops first this generation.
Yeah.
True. All right. We got a good off-topic question from friend of the show, VC Jester. What is the most iconic movie, song / soundtrack in your opinion? I know
Ever?
South Park movie.
South Park movie. Really?
That's the movie. I don't love musicals, but I love the South Park movie. And I just watched it the other day with the homie, and we were singing along and dancing in the living room.
Wow. Dang. I actually, the first thing that came to my mind, I mean, it's not my favorite, but the most iconic was like Mario, maybe just because the Mario movie came out. But
are we talking about movie soundtracks?
Yeah, it says most
soundtracks?
iconic movie song / soundtrack.
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a game, obviously, but the movie just came out, so
Is that even a movie, for God's sake?
yeah.
I mean, Jesus.
is.
You go to a theater, it's 2-hour runish time.
Animated film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just got to be really disappointing for Hollywood, I would think. Just like, really? Like, how
Wait,
in the
disappointing
hell?
that it made a lot of money.
No, I just kind of like, I mean, the people who, again, the people in the trenches is like, really? We spent two or 3 years making pouring all of our hearts and souls into making this movie, and a stupid ass movie based on a video game is kicking our ass. Yeah, I mean, that just sucks. I just think
That's
but
a fun,
Mario.
awesome movie. That
Yeah.
movie,
It's got a universal
many
appeal.
years and hours were spent on that.
God, I mean, our iconic. There's hundreds. I mean,
I know.
What do you think is the most iconic song or soundtrack?
I really
from a
liked
movie?
Pulp Fiction. I really like Pulp Fiction on a more
yeah,
serious
but I think the problem with Pulp Fiction is there's so many. It's like Guardians, right? Because the entire movie is basically made to sell a soundtrack album. So I don't know if that would count. Like, would you?
Well, it was Star Wars theme.
Yeah, does a song count, or would you? I mean, but
Soundtrack.
I mean, like Ride of the Valkyries from Apocalypse Now. That's like, right? I mean, that's
For me, the single most memorable song-based moment in the movie is from Reservoir Dogs, Stuck
Yeah,
in the
that
Middle
too.
with You.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean that
Oh,
one too
yeah.
was a good one. But there were a lot of songs in Reservoir Dogs too. So
Liquid R had posted Tina Turner in the Thunderdome. We don't need another hero from.
ooh boy, yeah, we had a discussion about that third. Oh,
When you say iconic, what is iconic in this context? Are we saying like most famous, most well known? Like you never have to have seen the movie to know the song?
Oh wait,
Sure.
Don't you have the dictionary on hand?
I'm saying that how are we defining it for this question? Because there's like different connotations and slight variations that you can take on this.
All right. Think of a movie soundtrack. What's the first one that pops in your head? That's the answer.
Soundtrack or song?
Both?
Sure.
yeah, score or musical.
Yeah,
musical.
yeah.
Okay, so this
that's
sounds
a-
like I can define this question slightly however I want to.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. The way I would define it is that is there a song or a soundtrack that like everybody knows, even if they don't even know the original movie, if they never watched it. And I would actually have to pick probably something like Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You." Like people freaking know. Like people just know
He's
that
never seen the
song,
movie.
right?
He's
Like
never seen the movie.
everybody knows that song. You never even have to like think about Kim
Oh, no, I'm
Costner,
sorry.
and Whitney Houston trying to
Yeah,
be
but I
romantically
don't-
into the movie.
I was thinking Selena Dion from
Oh God.
From
My heart-
Titanic.
Oh,
My
Titanic,
Heart Will
yeah.
Go On was obnoxiously overplayed at that time, but I don't
Everyone
feel
knows what
like
that is.
I don't feel like it's like lingered in public. I don't feel like it's been covered and like recovered and like replayed the way that the Whitney Houston song
No.
has been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it didn't have the staying power.
I'm just going to disagree because one, I've never seen Titanic, but believe me, when I heard
What?
that song, I was like,
You cried.
oh, that
cried.
boat
It's okay.
deserved it. I know if there's anybody watching who's descendant of anybody who died from the Titanic, I'm just saying.
And
That
that's
song-
for this, we
that
got an episode
song
of the
would, like-
podcast next
Oh,
week.
So
okay,
that
Lord.
you know what
Thanks, everybody,
happened?
for
People
tuning
don't
in.
know the iceberg was like, what the hell? Who was playing? Let me just slide on over here. Shut the hell up! I'm trying to sleep. Turn that damn song down. I'm saying so. No, not that song. And I Will Always Love You from The Bodyguard. I don't think so because the problem is, I think 5 people saw the movie The Bodyguard. By the way, a little trivia there. That role was originally written for Steve McQueen. So, but I don't think so because I think that song is iconic, but people associate it with like every other thing except for that movie. Like
It's
that.
iconic. You didn't see this. This is what I mean. I get to define it myself. You didn't. I asked for the guardrails before I gave my answer, and you didn't want to give me any. So I got to make my own.
Remember the
I think
Bodyguard's
that's a great
wife?
answer.
Remember, was it The Bodyguard's wife? There's a trailer with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. That's what I think about when I hear that song. So go look up that YouTube video. It's really fantastic. I don't think about. I don't know.
Anyway, other iconic ones: Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. Or Terminator 2. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, but that's a
Yeah.
score again.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about pure song, I don't.
Somebody
know.
mentioned Tron. I think that actually is a
Yeah.
really good soundtrack too.
Hmm.
That I don't remember much.
And it's very nerdy.
Yeah.
Inception.
Oh, Mission Impossible.
Oh,
But I guess
yeah.
it was a TV show. But you know.
Right.
Circle of Life, Lion King. That's
Oh,
that
yeah.
that's mine.
Yeah, anything Disney, I guess. If you're one of those
Anything
Disney
You didn't
nerds.
say that
Disney.
publicly, you know. So
I was just thinking.
Sorry,
I
Mickey,
was
don't
just
come after me, please.
I was listening to a punk cover of "Let It Go" from Frozen on my lunch break.
Oh,
Pretty bad. Pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
that is true. That is a very iconic song.
yeah, yeah.
Wait,
I think there's too many to pick from.
Blues Brothers.
It's very hard to pick. There's
Great,
Top
so
Gun?
many.
I can't think of the Top Gun.
Yeah, the Top Gun theme.
I-
that was.
Yeah, I agree with all y'all, but I'm going to stick
I'm
with
gonna
my
have to
South
listen to
Park
that.
movie and Reservoir
Oh, James
Dogs.
Bond.
James
Yeah,
Bond.
James Bond. Yeah.
Yeah, there's too many
Yeah.
to pick from.
Anyway,
There's so many.
anyway. Thanks, VC Jester. God. And then
Chaos Agent.
yeah, let's get out of here real quick. One more super chat from Coffee. Give us 11 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. Said, I disagree with your take on corporations. We need corporations and not the other way around. Corporations always have our best interest in mind. Lastly, trickle-down economics is definitely true.
There's really people who believe that, and
Not touching it, but it made me laugh.
Especially from someone who's Canadian. If that was Canadian dollars.
yeah, I know. So it was only like 50 cents or something like that. They really, I can see that. I mean, there's definitely really people who believe that there is a benefit. There is, and because again, everybody always wants their villain, and it's always somebody on the other side that you can point to and blame. And I mean, to be fair, corporations have brought us good things. They like light bulbs, like GE. They bring good things to light. That's,
I love how Brad's like, nope, not touching that one. And Gordon just dived right in.
Yeah, we're all like, crickets, let's take us out of here.
No, because
That's a
I-
funny joke.
check
I
back
like that
next week.
comeback.
I think it's fair to. I don't think it's unfair. I mean, because you have to. There's people always like, oh, if we just simply did this. Let me tell you, like, I think the one thing I've learned about the human condition is like, if you think this one thing that you could eliminate is going to fix everything, it's going to turn out, oh my God, that was the thing holding the water out of the boat. Water starts flooding in. Like every time you think there's one easy solution, there never is. Just the one thing I've just taught. So yes, I blame corporations oftentimes, and I also realize it's looking for the
So-
easy fixes.
so complicated,
It's
man.
never, ever, ever gonna get you there. Like, so just saying. I'm just saying. So I will get on there. But check back next week for your fix of PC talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or Stitcher. And if you're on one of those services, please leave a review. Every time you do, an iceberg slides into a passenger ship crossing the Atlantic because someone's blasting their Bluetooth speaker too loud on deck playing a Celine Dion song.
Well, actually, we did get a review. We got a new 5-star review. Thank you so much from Carpet Gangster. Said, I just recently started listening a few months ago. Thanks. And have really enjoyed it. Now I'm going back and listening to old episodes while I wait for new ones. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And
really
sorry that an iceberg hit.
Because I'm really sorry to all the passengers on that ship.
Yeah. Man, Carpet Gangster, why did you allow this to happen? Anyway, thank you.
I was just thinking that, how do you know Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't the thing at the end of the thing? And like, you really
Gordon,
don't
I
want
gotta
to
get out of here, man.
Say Gordon's in the comments in the full nerd at PCWorld.com. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon. I'm with Brad Chargas.
Adios, I'm out of here.
Elena E.
Bye.
Anna Patrick Murray.
Thank you.
And Willis is going to trigger the iceberg.
I learned a lot from Gordon today, from Titanic to was it microwave McDonald's apparently. Anyways, we'll see everyone next time. Have a good day. Bye.